children out of wedlock, having affairs, supporting themselves by writing political tracts and newspaper articles, and they didn't get burned at the stake or thrown in jail or anything. They seem to be able to do these things with maybe a smidge of social pushback, but not much, because they were in revolutionary circles where nobody minded that. The thing to remember about like the early industrial period is that life was rough for everyone.
Yeah, no indoor plumbing. Hello.
Exactly. Right. It wasn't just women who were like overworked. The men were like literally worked to death quite often too, and still children still doing the really dangerous jobs and things
in fact,
like
they were
that.
having big families specifically in many cases so the children could do the work.
Yeah.
It was to help the families.
Speaking of Walt Disney, there is a propaganda short that we talked about on the show that we did about Disney with Courtney. It's called Education for Death, The Making of a Nazi. And it's pretty much the blueprint for totalitarianism and dictatorship and how they create someone who could go and blindly follow orders and kill without discretion, things like that. And the first thing is to separate the child from his mother at a very young age, plop him into school, train him that way. And it even shows you in the cartoon them ripping the little boy out of his mother's arms and sending him to be a Nazi youth. And this is, part of what feminism does. Like you were saying, you have to be a boss babe and you have to earn the money and you have to work outside the home. So to do that, you got to put your child in daycare, or you got to put them in, public school system, which is just a continuation of the Prussian school system that does not teach you how to think or even teach you how to learn or things. It just teaches you how to obey, how to show up on time, do what you're told, regurgitate things that you learn. So it's not a critical thinking place of learning. It's an indoctrination center. And part of the overarching globalization agenda is to make everyone so atomized that they have no support system but the government, the dictator,
to isolate people.
Yeah, the Bolsheviks had a very powerful woman in their ranks named Alexandra Kollontai, who was their Commissar of Social Welfare, and in 1918 she created creches. They were like the first state daycares. And her aim, she said that women need to stop seeing themselves as mothers and start seeing themselves as economic units. And that if they're going to be mothers, that's a wonderful, noble thing because you are creating like future workers for Russia, but that you need to understand they don't belong to you. Your children aren't yours. Everyone's children are yours. And they really belong to Mother Russia. So we're going to break it. She actually was the first to take marriage and make it just a legal institution rather than a sacrament of the church.
She was one who did that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. And to pretty much, she thought we should just abolish the patriarchal lineage. No one should know who their father is because that's how you're going to have things like private property and private wealth passed down. So it really, she was much more upfront about we need to get rid of the nuclear family and the church and sacraments and motherhood, and everybody is a cog in the wheel for the state, and that's what's going to bring equality and utopia. And the liberal West was just more, we're going to empower women. We're going to empower you. Don't you want your own money? Don't you want to say? Don't you want a voice?
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. So they kind of had, it was the same goals, but different tactics for different cultures.
A little more finesse.
Yeah.
A little more finesse in the West.
Well, they use the culture. So in the West, we value things like freedom of speech. You know, other countries in the West don't necessarily have First Amendment the way that we do, but we have this idea of free speech. And so that's really what they're playing to, is that notion and that cultural, and whereas in Russia, because they don't have that, they're playing to the collectivism.
Yes.
And they work through that model.
What happened in her childhood?
Seriously.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
She actually came from a very aristocratic family.
Typical.
Yep. She knew like 7 languages. Her father was a military general.
Very oppressed.
Yeah.
And she was also very indoctrinated.
She was. And she was like a true revolutionary. She thought that your true love shouldn't be for your husband, it should be for Lenin.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do y'all know about the creation of the word children?
No.
Well, this is in circles like sovereignty theory and things like that.
Yeah.
But they say if you're in a court battle, you shouldn't say like, give me my children back. You should say, give me my property back. Because then it goes back to more of a common law, more of a constitutional law, where children are actually the property of their parents, and that you kind of like, that's the way to actually get to the core of the law, is to call them your property. Yeah.
Wow.
Because children is a legal term.
Right.
That doesn't mean what you think it means. It means something that is in the favor of the state.
Property
Basically.
of the state.
Good to know.
I recently read that about the word person. The person
Yes.
means corporation.
Yep.
It means a corporate entity
Same
as
thing.
opposed to like an individual. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
You're like, we're learning something new on the show too.
Yeah. And
So there's a lot of words, if you're in court, you think you know what it means, but in the court it means something else.
Right,
Like
the
even the
legal
word
definition.
understand, like do you understand? Apparently that means, are you guilty?
Right, right.
You
That-
know?
that is
So
true.
it's like all these words that they have these double meanings, and in the court system they can actually use it against you.
Yeah, totally. So I think we're actually going to switch around the topics because this one kind of, we kind of started to cover it already, but I think the next section that we're going to talk about is the political agenda behind the movement. And so, a lot of people think that it was because women wanted, as you were asking, about the right to vote, because of course, they were oppressed if they didn't have this right to vote, and they weren't considered fully human, and that's obviously not the case. And interestingly enough, I know you've definitely written about this, you've all talked about this, but women didn't want to, which I think is such, most people don't realize that.
It's mind-blowing to people when they hear that. So I'll often explain that when they had these issues just up for like a referendum on the ballot in various places around the country, only about 4% of women who could be eligible to vote actually went to the polls to say, yes, I even want this on the ballot. There were larger memberships in anti-suffrage groups for women than there were pro-suffrage groups. They had really great reasons, too, for saying they didn't want the vote. They said, number one, it's going to pit us against our husbands and like split the family. Why would we want to do that? And they could foresee that that was going to be a problem. They said, the other thing is that we're going to be tasked with things that we cannot do and don't want to do. We can't, why should we be helping the nation's laws be made if we can't defend it? We don't want to be drafted. We don't want to have to do compulsory military service or things like that. And we don't want to have to do like jury duty and have to hear the grisly details of like horrific crimes. We'd rather leave that to our husbands, and they can go listen to that awful stuff and deal with that. And they felt very like they had a lot of power and influence in the social spheres they were in. They were the community organizers and the people in charge of anything going on in churches, schools, communities, taking care of the elderly, taking care of the children. They felt like they already had a good deal of influence through that, and they didn't want to have to be studying all the different political candidates and trying to be involved in politics, because that was still seen kind of as a dirty, like, rolling in the mud, kind of a WWE wrestling kind of a thing to be involved in.
It does make your life worse.
Yeah, so they had really good reasons for why they didn't want to be involved, but we're always told, if you just ask the average person on the street why feminism started, they would probably say, well, because women looked around one day and saw that they were horribly oppressed and miserable and life was terrible for them, and they took to the streets and did something about it. But it's actually not true. It was a very small group of revolutionaries and like agent provocateurs who were backed and funded by the usual suspects, wealthy industrialists.
Well-funded.
Yeah, wealthy industrialist bankers, the same group that met at Jekyll Island to create the Federal Reserve Act and the income tax, also financially backed suffrage, because that was a wonderful deal for them. As Jamie said, they could double the tax base, they could get almost double the labor force and lower the wages.
And they doubled the Socialist Party's membership by tenfold in 1 year.
Yes, they did, absolutely. Almost every suffragette was a socialist.
Yeah,
Probably 95% of them or more were. So it was a great deal for the wealthy banking elite and for the people who had all kinds of plans for what they wanted to do with all this new income tax money and things like that. So
a lot of people don't realize that voting is just a game. To distract people. It's just like red team, blue team. Do you want the Bears or do you want the Broncos or whatever? It's just a distraction in a game. And we've seen the last election, that was completely stolen. So your vote didn't matter anyways. They were just going to put into place who they want to put in. The scams on scams on scams.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that's a really interesting point, because I think that this past election was so much more obvious to people, but that game has been played for so long.
Oh yeah.
And it's really, you talked about the usual funding players, right?
Yeah.
The monopoly game that they play, right?
Yes.
And they fund both sides. And it's like the famous interview with George Bush and talking about skull and bones, and we don't talk about that, but they're supposedly on opposite sides, but really behind the scenes they're
It's more obvious now that it is the same side.
It's a Punch and Judy show. It's a little puppet, a blue one and a red one.
Yes.
But there's one person pulling the strings up top.
Yep.
Yes, and that was my point, is that either way, it doesn't really matter which side, because those at the top who are funding and pulling the strings, as you said, they win either way. So.
Behind closed doors, they're all friends and they're all on the same team.
Totally.
It's them against us.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. But I think it's interesting to think about, I think women on some level, like we're just biologically, we're wired to be more intuitive, and we don't want to be involved in those kinds of like machinations.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And as you were saying about how, that would divide the family. Why would we want to do that? And I think people don't think about that, but it's so obvious. And the reason we don't think about it now today is, one, because the nuclear family has been so destroyed, and I think two, because we've been so programmed to think that this is the way that you save the family. This is the way you you fight for your rights, your quote unquote rights. How your rights are given to you by the government?
Right.
Daddy government's going to give us our rights. Yeah. So we have to go vote so we can get them.
Yeah, it's funny because one of my early childhood memories is listening to my parents fight over the 1988 presidential election, because my mom was going to vote for the Democrat, and my dad was going to vote for the Republican, and my dad's threatening to lock my mom in her room so she can't cancel his vote, and my mom's threatening to divorce him over it.
Wow.
And then shockingly to no one, the next year they did get a divorce.
Wow.
It wasn't just political, but it was my mom was this Marxist feminist. She had been to university and been very indoctrinated with that stuff, and my dad was a blue collar working guy who wanted lower taxes and things that would make it easier for him to provide for his family, and they just started to see each other as enemies. So
Rachel, do you know the trajectory of when women started voting and when they started voting Democrat?
no.
Because I think I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know it's once women started voting and
It wasn't
who they started
long.
voting for.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's never stopped. It's
Yeah.
always been still for the Socialist Party of
If I
1901.
remember correctly, actually, now that I think it was around the time of the civil rights movement.
Yeah, I think
that
it
it
was.
started to swing
Well,
in a big way.
Right.
What I think is really interesting about that is that, so in terms of personality, women tend to be more compassionate, right? They're
Yes.
more put compassion on the personality tests. It bifurcates into agreeableness and into politeness. And women tend to be pretty high in both. Obviously there are always the outlier, but this is the part that I think escapes a lot of people. They think compassion means that they're overly sensitive and that they're very soft. They see it as a weakness, and what they don't realize is this is the mama bear.
Yeah.
So they're compassionate because they need to be in tune with their vulnerable offspring.
Yeah.
And they need to be able to protect them. But if you are if you are a threat to their offspring, they're not so compassionate to you.
Right.
But this is where it relates to voting, the voting parties, the voting blocs. And this is why I think they target the women, because they are more compassionate. They can sell them this whole the identity politics, the intersectionality lie, where people don't have an identity because you are who you are. You're Rachel, you're Jamie, you're Erin, you're Jennifer. No, you're part of X, Y, and Z group.
Yeah.
And this is what they cater to, and then they expect the women to want to protect that group.
Right.
Because they've latched on as an identity. And that makes it much easier to get votes, because you've created these different factions where the women are going to be much more likely to follow suit. So
Yeah. 100%.
The crazy thing to me is that this country was started a few hundred years ago. and life was hard for everyone. Like they chopped down trees and made their houses out of it.
Yeah.
Like, do any of us know what that's like? No. And so our lives have gotten progressively more comfortable, and there's nothing really to fight for.
Right.
And so they're able to manipulate people in all of these ways because our comfort is at such a high level that that they boil our lives down to these tiny things and these superficial things, or
Like pronouns.
yes, pronouns and sexual preferences and all of these things. And because we're not used to surviving anymore. We don't have to survive.
Yeah, these are kind of luxury problems.
They're
aren't
luxury problems. And I think it's...
They're not arguing about identity politics in third world countries.
No.
They're laughing. Yeah, they're laughing at us.
And they're
Totally.
not talking about fake meat.
Right.
And they're not talking about these things because they're trying to have a meal.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they have meat, they're ecstatic.
That's a luxury
Yes,
for them.
exactly.
For sure. For sure.
So I think it's this whole like the softening of all culture, because it's not just about destroying women, it's also about effeminizing men.
Yeah.
And taking out the strong men, and you're able to be destroyed.
Yeah.
So it's like make the women try and be the men, and make the men be the women, and you could take a whole nation down like that.
Well, we've all heard that saying, politics is just showbiz for ugly people.
Yeah.
Right? But it truly is. And I think the Democratic Party right now is such a good example of this. I mean, Ronald Reagan was a Republican, but he was an actor.
Yeah.
So many actors go into politics because that's just what it is. It's just acting.
Yeah, the
And-
Ukrainian president
Yeah.
played the
Yes.
president
See?
on television.
That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. But, you know, it's like you have this group of people like 18 to 24 that are so easily influenced by Hollywood, by musicians and things. I mean, you've got Katy Perry in a dress with a ballot on it that has Obama checked on it back in the day.
Yeah.
You got Joe Biden getting together with Cardi B and having
my
an
God.
interview. like they're trying to be hip, or they're trying to be
Rock the vote.
Yeah.
Right, rock the vote. Yeah.
Yep.
But people don't understand, like, it would be such a huge responsibility if your vote even mattered. You would have to study all of the candidates and what they stand for and their policies and what they're planning to do. And it's just so much work. Like, my attitude is I don't vote because I don't believe in it, for one, and I don't have time to find out who's in bed with whose son is a crackhead, what kind of kids stuff is on their laptop, like what kind of dirty deals are they doing overseas. Like, you would just lose your mind trying to find the right candidate, because there is
Exactly.
none, because
There
they're
is none.
all dirty.
Yes. Well said. So
Maybe
true.
1% is not, you know,
Yeah.
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 but
You have your
And
extreme
those are the ones that they
outliers.
try and silence immediately.
Yeah, and
push
those
to the
people
side.
get shut out.
Yeah.
The people who are
Quick.
not, unfortunately, way too quickly.
Yeah,
I mean, you
like my
have-
man Ron Paul.
Jay-Z
in the day.
and Beyonce going to the White House to party with Obama all the time. And
Right.
I have so many examples of celebrities who are best friends with a big Hollywood name. I mean, like Kanye and Donald Trump just got together. So it's always like these people are linked to each other, and because it's easy to get young people to think this is the cool path, like this is the
Yes.
hip, this is progressive, this is improving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You don't want to hold back progress and be a nerd, do you? Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You
that
wanna
is
be a
something
square.
that like women tend to be less likely. I mean, we might be exceptions in some way because we're here.
Outliers.
But women tend to be more apt to go along with the group and go along
Yeah.
to get along and things like that. And that's, I mean, you need that as a
The
mother.
agreeableness, yeah.
Yeah, you need that to sustain offspring and be, you know, you're going to be occupied for many years with birthing and nursing children historically. So you don't want, like, for you to be cast out or, you know, ostracized from society could be potentially deadly to you and your children. So men tend to be a little bit more apt to like go against the grain or give
Because
pushback
they're
on
higher
things.
risk taking.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's very true. So, any other thoughts on that?
I was thinking about how just historically, you can tell the times and the culture has changed by women's grooming habits. You know,
Yes.
like,
So true.
like in the 70s, it was like this big, huge bush, right? In the 1980s, yeah. But in the 1980s, it was like trimmed, you know. 1990s, it was shaved, and now it's a penis.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
you know, that's a trend that we've seen.
Right.
You know, so it's really affected our culture the entire
You know
way
what?
through.
That's very funny, but very true. But what's really interesting about that too is I was always fascinated by. I mean, I think most girls are just fashion, but I was always fascinated by how fashion indicates the culture and the relationship and the feedback loop there. And of course, you know, as growing up, I thought that it was just such a great coincidence that the fashion kind of portends the future in the culture.
Yes.
And I have more recently learned that actually no, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
They use the fashion in
Yep.
order to portend the cultural infiltration and culture creation that
Yes.
they want.
Oh.
And right.
They did
Is
that
this what-
with
To the extent of colors.
Yes.
Like when,
Yes.
you know, it was maybe 2-3 years ago, but like a bunch of the fashion magazines had, and a bunch of the conglomerates had decided they were going to start showing blue and yellow. That was going to be the big colors for like 2021.
Yeah,
weird.
Yeah, right?
Is that why Instagram only sends me fashionable sweatpants? Or is it just me? Is it just me? Because
No, it's me.
every time
Me too.
okay, so that's what they're doing now.
Yeah.
It's sweatpants,
Yeah.
fancy sweatpants in black.
Yeah,
you know?
And now the
right.
beauty trends for women look like drag queen stuff, right?
They
It's
do.
girls getting, like the hip hop girls getting such huge like fillers in their lower body that they're out there walking around looking like a wisdom tooth. They got eyelash extensions that are so big it looks like there's tarantulas on their face.
Yes.
Yeah, the curled
And then the
eyelashes.
Every
giant
day.
lip fillers
Yes.
that are absurd, the cheekbone fill, and then now they're sucking the fat out of their cheeks, and it's like they're trying to make us look like bizarre caricatures of what
Yeah,
women look
exactly.
like.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, drag queens don't look like women.
No,
No.
they look like a
don't
caricature.
Look
Yeah,
like
they do.
women. It's
Yeah.
an appropriation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. And they used fashion. I remember hearing something about trying to kind of like introduce more like pornography into the culture, which is another way to destroy men.
Yeah.
And they introduced this scandalous bathing suit that was for men and women. And it was like this weird, like thin cut, kind of like a
The
unipiece
V.
I'm just
thong
thinking of
thing.
Borat
Yeah,
right
it was,
now.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
exactly what it was. And they were like, this is the hottest thing.
Oh my
Men and women can wear it. And they were putting it all over the advertisements and everything. And they do it through art. They do it
Yeah.
through fashion. And they say, oh, this is art now. This is avant-garde.
This is how you're
And
going
they're
to be
trying
in
to
the end
destroy
group.
beauty,
Yeah.
which is like destroying women.
Well, and it's also, yes, it absolutely destroys women because, you know, the feminine is the beautiful, but it also destroys truth.
Yeah.
And that's like the ultimate way to destroy humanity and to
yeah.
destroy the world because,
Well, speaking of fashion, we do a lot of work on the satanic infiltration of popular culture, and I think a perfect example of that was the Balenciaga scandal.
yes.
That can't be ignored, and not just them, people they're connected to, musicians they're connected to, and other fashion houses have the same ethos of child abuse.
Yes. Right.
From how it gets created to how it gets marketed.
Yes.
Right. I think that's a really good segue into the next topic to talk about some of the occult roots and some of the history, some of the theological, if you want to call it that, maybe have the worldviews around that led to feminism that ultimately where they're paving the way for these, you know, kind of merge of man, woman, transgender, AI.
Yeah,
Well,
it's very popular right now. If you guys just go to TikTok and look up like hashtags like witchcraft, goddess worship, Wicca, things like that, you're going to find all kinds of ladies, young ladies, doing all kinds of goofy stuff. Sometimes they're just saging themselves. Sometimes they are watering their houseplants with their menstrual materials.
Girls, no.
Or talking about how you can use crystals in a unseemly manner to manifest your desires, things of this nature. This is very popular. Wicca is actually one of the fastest growing religions in the UK. Witchcraft is one of the fastest growing religions in the United States, and it's because feminism wants to abolish anything patriarchal, and Christianity is God the Father, and they don't like that. And this is not new. It goes all the way back to ancient times. And it also goes back to first wave feminism here in the United States. A lot of people don't know. There used to be an old saying that there was hardly a suffragette who hadn't sat at the seance table. So in the mid and late 1800s, the spiritualism movement was huge. Theosophy was huge, which was also tied into like intelligence. So it was a little bit of a psyop there. But this is what all the suffragettes, it was what they were coming from. It was their worldview. And they even went so far as to rewrite the first 5 books of the Old Testament and call it the Woman's Bible. That was Elizabeth Cady Stanton and 38 other feminists. And you would think, okay, maybe they were probably Christian women trying. No, they were not. They were all kinds of different flavors of occult. Everything from like Shakers, Quakers, spirit mediums, tarot card readers, fortune tellers, atheists, Christian Scientists, pretty much anything except like mainstream Christians. And in the foreword, Elizabeth Cady Stanton said, the reason we're rewriting the first 5 books of the Bible and taking out anything patriarchal, you know, we're taking out that Eve was the one who ate from the tree, or we're taking out, you know, calling God he. It was like the first attempts at trying to gender neutralize or feminize the pronouns for God, things like that. And she said the reason was that we will never have true women's liberation as long as there is traditional Christianity. And I'd like to get rid of the Bible altogether, but it's too influential. It's the most, you know, widely circulated book in print, always has been, still is. So since we can't get rid of it, we're going to rewrite it to the point that it's unrecognizable and just change it completely. And you can still buy that book on Amazon today.
Wow.
Yeah. Where did the whole like Lilith thing come from?
That's from Jewish history, the Talmud. That's an extra story that God created Lilith and Adam. And Lilith and Adam, when they were being intimate, she wanted to be on top, and he said no. And she sprouted wings and turned into a demon and flew away. And so she became some kind of proto-feminist. That she would not submit or lay underneath her husband. So that comes from Talmud, I think it is. Yeah.
Whoa.
That's Lilith.
Yeah.
So now she's
that's
some
the
kind
extra biblical like traditions and things like that.
Yeah.
Is that why they called it the Lilith Fair?
Yes.
Yes.
What they call what?
The Lilith Fair.
Lilith Fair.
She also, when she sprouted the wings and flew off, she went into the ocean, and God sent angels to try to bring her back. But she said she was not going to go back, and then eventually made a deal that she would, but she was going to eat like a large number of her offspring on a regular basis. So she's basically like a baby-eating demon that kills infants. So there's actually a book I reference in my own that's a PhD thesis from a professor named Per Faxneld at the University of Stockholm, I think. And he has a wonderful book about how Lucifer was actually the kind of like the what do you call it, like the animal that sports teams, what mascot. Lucifer was like the mascot for the first wave feminist and suffrage movement because he was the liberator. And they saw him and Eve as, you know, is kind of a Gnostic view of like the Old Testament God is bad and wanted to limit you. And so Lucifer and Eve were the good ones because they wanted to give man knowledge and things like that. So they were very like upfront about it. But this is something you'll never hear about in like your high school history classes or your college history classes. No. That this was the real like spiritual ethos that gave birth to feminism that we have now. So. Yeah, and it goes right into things like reproductive rights. You know, if you're thinking about a primordial demon woman who eats infants, you know, She would also be a succubus. Lilith was also a succubus who would basically rape men in their sleep. So they would have, like Kabbalists and Talmudists would have amulets and different things that they would hang over babies' cribs or that men would sleep with to prevent Lilith from, eating the babies or doing succubus stuff to the men at night. The men weren't supposed to sleep alone in a house.
And why
because
was she eating the babies?
It was like an inherent hatred of having to be the childbearer, and anger that she was expected to submit to men.
She's evil Eve.
She's evil Eve. Yeah.
Wow.
She's like
Well, if you think about,
Eve.
adrenochrome and stuff like that,
Yeah.
still going on.
Yeah.
Right. That's but that was kind of more my question though. So just because this sounds a little bit different, but
Yeah.
I'm wondering, did she feel like she was getting some sort of power? Was it a sacrifice? It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was like a Kabbalah magic type of a thing, but you also see it in a lot of Gnostic sects. The earlier Gnostic sects would use they would eat aborted fetuses and things like that to get like ritual magic power. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just say no.
Yeah.
Just say no.
Say no. Just say no. Yeah. I feel like that's one of those things that's such a hard concept for people to wrap their head around, and so many people just shut down the conversation.
Yeah.
They just can't accept that anything
It sounds so nutty.
Yeah.
Well, you
It's so
brought up
dark.
abortion. You can't really talk about feminism without
Without-
abortion
yeah, thank
because
you.
it's like their sacrament. And they even say in the Church
Yeah.
of Satan, in their legal battles, that you cannot make this illegal because it is part of our worship and our
Yep,
sacrament.
exactly.
Yeah, they're using the 1992 Freedom of Religion Act to justify their ritual, which is abortion.
And I mean, speaking of racism, abortion and Planned Parenthood came from eugenics, which was a very racial movement to get the black population down. So abortion is very
Blacks and the
racist.
disabled.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
The crazy thing to me is that if you're trying to paint the Bible as some like anti-feminist book, it's or anti-woman book,
Right. Yeah.
there's actually a lot of very progressive things going on in the Bible, even in the Old Testament. There is one of the judges, which was an order of law established by God because they were all wanting a king, and God was like, no, you don't want a king because the king is going to have everything. He's going to take your children, send them to war, but I'll give you some judges. And one of those judges was a woman named Deborah who was married, and she was leading all of Israel from under a tree. So she was very earthy. And she helped them go to war, and she helped inspire them. And, you also have someone like Joan of Arc, who inspired France to take its independence back. And you have all these women who are very powerful, they're leaders, and they're honored in the scriptures. And so it's like you don't have to change the Bible or to take anything away from what's in there to be a powerful leader and to be worthy of honor and respect and everything. So it's really an act of rebellion and an act of really like a satanic kind of a spirit to do all these things
to
because
invert it that way.
you want power. You don't have to do it by tearing everything to shreds and just like destroying everything and blowing it up. You can be powerful, and you can be a woman. And you can be feminine.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I don't know if you guys know this, but the very first cover of the very first issue of Ms. Magazine. Now, this was a magazine that was supposed to be sold to women, American suburban housewives in the 70s. Yeah. This magazine was started by Gloria Steinem, who was recruited out of Smith College by the CIA to be the face of feminism. This magazine was started with CIA money, and the image they chose for the first cover was of the Hindu goddess Kali. And she is a blue-skinned, wrathful female spirit who wears a belt of severed men's arms around her waist, a necklace, a garland of severed men's heads around her neck.
I just want to say one thing really quickly. Blue skin, avatar.
Yes, blue skin, avatar.
That's a
exactly.
fashion statement that I do not want to make.
No, let's not do that.
No.
But you're thinking to yourself, if you're trying to sell this magazine to suburban American housewives in the 70s, why on earth would you pick this?
Right.
Well, it's because she's always pictured in Hinduism as standing with her foot on the chest of Shiva, who's like her male consort. And she's the wrathful feminine. She only accepts male sacrifices. And she had one of the largest, most murderous cults in history. It's actually in the Guinness Book of World Records. They think it was probably in the millions of men who were murdered and sacrificed in her cult. That's where we get the modern word thug from. They were called thuggies. Her cult were. So, yeah, she's like super scary and super terrifying. But if you're a young girl in today's world and you're angry, you know, and you're rejecting your father and you're rejecting Christianity and God the Father, and you're angry because you've been sold this idea that you're oppressed and there's all these forces trying to hold you back and hold you down, you would look at her and think, yeah, she's awesome. You know, she strikes fear in the heart of men, and she stands on their chest and she drinks their blood. She's awesome. So she's like, they always have this, like you've talked a lot about Inanna and Ishtar and like how they were kind of similar.
Well, but a lot of people don't realize that the oppression of women that they're talking about is from the pagan world.
Yeah.
And it was Christianity that restored women to a proper place of veneration with Eve, gave them rights, gave them, you know, all the good things that we think of today that feminism is fighting for. That is a Christian thing. It's not a pagan thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can you talk a little bit about the pagan roots of that?
Sure.
That culture? Yeah.
So the very first cities in Mesopotamia and Sumer, you think of, you know, a dusty castle in the desert. These were cults to certain gods called the Anunnaki. So if you've ever watched the History Channel, you would know about these weird tales of the Anunnaki. And these were the pagan gods of antiquity, what we would consider principalities or demons or things like that. But one of the first cities was called Uruk, and their patron goddess was Inanna, who had a very Promethean story where she stole these things from her realm of the gods and she brought into her city to make her city more prosperous. Things like kingship and crowns and measuring implements and all the things that make up a society. And Inanna was known as the goddess of sex and war, but she was also male and female.
Like Baphomet.
Exactly. Or like Lucifer is also male and female. So Inanna became Ishtar. Ishtar is connected to Kali. We can get, you know, down the line like that.
Yeah.
But it's a very strange story when you just start to read things like Epic of Gilgamesh and Tales of the Sumerians and things like that. It is like a cosmic soap opera with aliens.
Yeah.
Which Gilgamesh is on every reading list.
Yeah.
For every college.
Yeah.
Still today.
That's true.
So if you're wondering why you know, cross-dressing and transgenderism and stuff is such a big issue, it's because it's been preserved since the beginning of pagan history until now as some type of sacrament and worship of Inanna or Ishtar.
Yeah, and then in the 1700s, the revolutionaries in France and America, many of whom were like proto-feminists, they had this same idea that like the pre-fall state of Adam was that he was male and female. We're trying to put the rib back in, or we're trying to put his side back together. We're trying to merge the genders back together. Like, this was a really popular thing in all the revolutionary circles in the 17 and 1800s that kind of drove feminism forward too. And these are very old ideas.
So priests of Inanna were known as reed people, and they were androgynous, and for the males, they would make them eunuchs, and females were for temple prostitution. So worship of Ishtar and Inanna. Every girl, let's say in like the city of Babylon, would have to go through this initiation to become a woman, where she had to go to the temple of Inanna and basically give her virginity away to the first person who would pay for it.
Wow.
Sounds very liberating.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure she felt great after.
Yeah.
And if nobody wanted her,
for women,
she would have to live at the temple until somebody bought her virginity.
Wow. Yeah, and
so ladies, we don't want to live in this world.
No.
Okay?
Well, it doesn't it
No.
sound similar to now how every girl turns 18 and thinks to herself, should I start an OnlyFans?
Right.
Yeah.
No,
And they're legalizing
They
prostitution.
popularized
in lots of
and
states.
normalized prostitution.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happened. I'm curious, you talked about the 1800s, and I'm very familiar with that time period,
Yes.
you know. But I'm curious why they were so fascinated with this pagan culture, with there was a lot of revival of, mystery school teachings and mystics, and what was it that drove them towards that?
Well, it was, if you, so the revolution, the revolutionary spirit is about eliminating boundaries.
Right.
Don't put your restrictions on me. Don't tell me I can't coom all day long and write poetry, and that I have to go to work and be productive and take care of people. So it was like, in a Christian-dominated Europe, there was a lot of restriction, and there were moral standards, and these people, so they automatically gravitated towards Gnosticism or paganism or things like that, because those things are about dissolving and transgressing boundaries in order to be liberated, rather than trying to control your passions and become divinized that way. So they really just, human beings are very spiritual, and politics is just one arm of the spiritual, right? It's more like the practical implementation of your worldview, which comes from your underlying spiritual understanding. So they loved these things because it fit right in with all the creepy stuff they wanted to do, to be perfectly honest. So you had Flora Tristan and a lot of proto-transgender or cross-dressing people in France. You actually could get a license to wear clothes of the opposite gender in France around that time. And so you'll just notice that a lot of these revolutionaries, this is the kind of stuff they were into, is cross-dressing and any kind of sexual taboo, any kind of open relationship, free love was a huge thing in this era too. So,
well, I mean, from what I understand, in certain eras like Victorian era and things like that, you couldn't dress any old way.
Right.
You had a dress code depending on what your status was, if you were part of the gentry or if you were part of the common people, you couldn't, it was illegal to wear certain clothes.
Totally.
So then these people obviously, take it a step further and you dress like a woman.
Yeah.
Dress like a man. Crazy.
Like the Ukrainian president again.
Yes, exactly. But that's what you'll just start noticing the same patterns repeating all throughout history, and all these different things that you wouldn't think would necessarily be connected, and yet somehow they are, because it's the same spirit behind all of these things.
Yes, it's because these are ancient spirits.
Yes.
And they're still at work. And people want to say, oh, well, I'm not religious. I just want to be free and I want to do whatever I want. But you are actually enslaved to a spiritual entity that's been around since the beginning of the earth.
Yeah.
So
if you wanted to see a picture of what Lilith or Inanna, or this is called the Bernie relief. I don't know if you can get close on that. But
there it is.
Yeah.
There she is right there.
Whoa.
She's red and angry.
Yeah.
Not my role model.
Yeah, so when you were saying they made eunuchs of the men and prostitutes of the women, I'm like, that's what's going on right
That's
now.
how you destroy
that's exactly
society.
what's going
That's
on
how you
right now.
enslave everyone.
Yeah, right. Well, that is the ultimate goal. We're going to back up a little bit, and then we're going to get to that. But we've jumped around a little bit. But I think it would be great to go through the different stages of feminism.
Sure.
Because I think that people don't have a really clear concept on that, and I think there's a lot of misconstrual around it. So, yeah, maybe we'll start with you. 'Cause I think that's,
Yeah, so depending on which gender studies professor you prefer, there's kind of loose boundaries of the waves, right? So first wave feminism would be from the French Revolution up to suffrage generally.
Right.
Second wave would be after suffrage through about the 60s, some would say the 70s.
Right.
And then third wave was right around 1980 and then up to maybe the 2000s. So third wave would be first wave would be your suffragettes, your revolutionaries, and then second wave would be your feminine mystique, Betty Friedan, Gloria Steinem, Simone de Beauvoir, and then in third
and the
wave,
V bikini.
yeah, and the V bikini, and then you would have in the 80s and 90s, it would be people like Oprah Winfrey and different pop stars and Shania Twain, She-Ra, like these kind of
or
strong
even like
girl, go
Pretty
girl.
Woman.
Yeah,
Pretty
Pretty Woman would be.
It's like be a beautiful superstar and also a prostitute.
Yes, exactly. So that would be third wave, and now we're kind of into, some call it fourth wave, some just call it intersectional feminism, where now it's gotten so broad that it's like what we were talking about, where it's almost like just erase womanhood altogether. Just get rid of woman as a category.
Yeah, woman of the year is a man.
Yeah. Anyone can be a woman. You just identify.
Men
just
can
whatever you
win
feel like.
women's sports.
But you can't say the word tribe.
Right.
Because then
that's
you're
also
appropriating.
Yeah, this is like, that's what the intersectionalism is, right? So it's like, if I were a feminist, well, I'm a white middle-class woman, so I'm still an oppressor, and I'm oppressed, but not as much as the like bisexual, disabled person of color feminist who is down here and the most oppressed, and she's not oppressing anyone. Oh, and then
a real tranny version.
Yes.
Of that.
Yeah, the transgender version of that is even more
So
oppressed.
put them right on the top.
Yeah.
Top woman of the year.
The Oppression Olympics.
Oppression Olympics,
I heard that the CIA is replacing enhanced interrogation techniques with 12-hour lecture from intersectional feminism.
No, that would be so effective.
You're like, no.
It would be so effective. Skip
would be.
waterboarding and just make
That's
them
what I mean.
take a gender studies class at a university. Yeah.
Make them watch
the direction our military has
Zelensky
gone.
That's why she believed me.
possible.
She was like, wait, they actually, it sounds like something they would do.
It totally does. I mean,
So I think you were saying earlier that people generally tend to want to, they want to seem pro-woman, right? They don't want to seem like they're against women. So they'll say things like, well, I think first wave was good.
Yeah, all the time.
But this latest stuff has gone too far. But given everything we've just talked about, was it ever really good? I mean, if the first wave feminists were literally Lucifer worshiping, spirit medium, tarot card reading, activists, and some of them were terrorists who would firebomb buildings, do hunger strikes, they would deface public property and things like that. I don't know that they were better. It's just presented as a wonderful thing. Even Trump postmortem partum Susan B. Anthony during his administration. So, and like you were saying, Ronald Reagan, well, he gave us no-fault divorce. So even people who are Republican or conservative are often doing this. Like, it drove me crazy during the Trump administration to hear him and Ivanka constantly talking about, we're getting mothers to work, we're going to send mothers to work. And I was like, why? Why are you doing that? They already have a full-time job.
Do I have to do everything?
Seriously.
Yeah, that's how I feel about voting and politics. Like, do women have to do everything? Yeah.
Well, I think that's a
Seriously.
really interesting point, though, just about the Republicans, because I actually feel like the Republicans advance the agenda always.
Yeah.
You know, they advance the narrative through the left, but they actually advance the policy and the agenda through the right.
Right.
Yep,
And
because
that's
they
true.
say that they're going to do the opposite, and then they say, oh, our hands are tied, we have to appease the middle, and then they don't do anything. And in some cases, they actually cater to the left anyway,
Well, I
because
think
they're
honestly, in
on the payroll.
I would say in every case. The analogy I use is a game tug of war. So, they're playing, it's like the left and right are doing this show, playing game tug and war. But then, the left keeps pulling, and the right's like, okay, we'll give you an inch,
Yes.
don't worry, but we're going to take it back, and then they give another inch, and before you know it, they're miles down the road, and they're like, I don't know how we got here.
They never take
Well,
it back.
it's like they've been put, like, they supported Caitlyn Jenner, right, and things
exactly,
like
of course.
that. So it's always like, well, we can be inclusive too, but we're going to have sound economic policy with our transgender stuff, and it's just.
It's through
Such
the
a
right that
false
I always talk about the
choice.
compassion trap. And this is, that's why they use the women for it. But I think that with a lot of these narratives, especially like the identity politics narratives, they use what I call the compassion trap because, like, you want to feel like you're a good, moral, virtuous person. And
I
if you
care.
don't,
I
exactly,
care about people.
yeah. And that's what they did. So, and they do it to the right so hard, right?
Always.
And women. They always like push these. What I call the compassion traps because they're easy targets. The people on the right, they're like, well, I don't want to be called racist. So
Well, here's the thing. You should be compassionate as an individual to your own community and your own neighbors and each person that you meet. It shouldn't be pushed through legislation to be compassionate, because the people who are enacting these policies are the most non-compassionate, murderous people on the earth, because it's a spiritual battle.
Yes.
They're
Well, and
liars. They're putting themselves forward as
I think-
caring, when in fact they're using your own compassion to enslave all of humanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would just add to that a lot of what they sell, that's why I call it the compassion trap, is because they're telling you a lie. So it's not really
Exactly.
compassionate. Most of what they tell you is it's always the people that they purport to want to help that they're hurting most.
yeah,
always.
It's so true.
Always.
But it's like that first wave of feminism, they came in like, well, women are being objectified and dehumanized. But they came in that way. That's how they tried to, but instead of like saying that we need to stop this, what they did instead was just say, we want to be like men.
Yeah.
So they didn't go and try to help women.
No.
They were like, we want the sexual freedom as men.
Yes.
Right.
So it's like, the only way to go from there is downhill.
Yeah.
It's
and
not a worldview that values womanhood. It's not a worldview that values femininity. It says you should be like a man.
Yeah.
And a man should be like a woman.
Yeah,
Which
just
is
as free.
satanic.
yeah, it is.
That's why they're doing it.
They're making a character out of being a woman. It's just a cartoon now. And there was a TikTok that went viral about a feminine boy who bought tampons, and it was like, what do you do with this? And everybody
yeah.
had a
Yeah.
take on that. You
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
And it just makes me uncomfortable. As you know, back in the day, if I put, black makeup on my face and a straw hat on and went around saying, yes, sir, like that makes me as uncomfortable seeing guys use tampons and make fun of women and doing it as if that would make a black person. It's like,
It is actually quite
Appropriation.
insulting and upsetting.
It is.
yeah.
Yeah.
You feel like you're being mocked and made fun of when you watch that.
It's the new minstrel show.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, also, I feel like a lot of times those people who are confused, like a man dressing like a woman, they can be actually very violent.
Yes.
And if you confront them on it, it's like they'll kill you.
True.
They'll fight you, hit you. So it's like, who's really getting oppressed here?
Yeah, but we're told that there will be people watching this who are on that hard left who will say that we are like these horrible people for saying that this makes us uncomfortable. They'll be like, you don't know what real oppression is, and you're just a privileged white woman. What do you know?
I
And
am
it's like,
privileged. I know that.
Well, you're
But
American.
it doesn't mean that I'm American. I live in the modern world. We have
Right.
indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
who are we not all privileged if you can turn on the television and even watch this?
To find out what
You
to
know?
be
You have
outraged about.
electricity in your home. Like, we're all privileged, y'all. We have more, a poor person has more than a king from
totally.
300 years ago. So,
Yeah. The other point I just wanted to make, when you talk about the first wave versus, well, if you want to call it fourth wave or whatever we're
Yeah.
in, the chaos we're in now,
Yeah.
really, it's just the madness. But I think also that, they're masters of incrementalism. Like, they couldn't
Yes.
just jump to where we are now.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
why
that's what
come
they
in
did
under
with
this and then-
socialism and communism too, the
Yes,
Fabian society
exactly.
and trying to, the slow creep,
Yeah.
the slow ideological
They were
creep.
originally, their mascot was the tortoise. And now they're
Yeah.
the wolf in sheep's clothing. But they were
Yes.
originally the tortoise, and it was after the incrementalism. Yeah. So, I think
Yeah,
that's it.
and so where are they going with it next?
Yeah.
You know?
Before we get to that, I want to hear you brought up Trump and Susan B. Anthony.
Yeah.
And I don't know that everybody, I mean, a lot of people watching may know, but I don't know that everybody knows the truth about Susan B. Anthony. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, so there was a thing you'll hear all the time is that the suffragettes were such brave, miraculous heroes because they were willing to go to prison and suffer to get the vote. But really, there was a lot of dog and pony show going on with that. So yes, they would get taken to prison, but they would get taken to like a
Cushy
very
prison.
a cushy prison,
really cushy.
and
Like
they
what
would
they call
3
white
meals a day.
white collar
Yeah.
prison.
Mayberry prison.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so they knew that they had the police and the governors in caught between a rock and a hard place because it was like, what are you gonna do? Actually throw me in prison? Actually punish me? Because people will be horrified by that.
Sure.
Especially in that time period, to take ladies and throw them in a jail cell
their
or
children.
take them from their children. So normally, most of them, they spent a couple days in there. Some of them would try to do hunger strikes and were supposedly force-fed. There's not as much documentation that really happened as you would expect there should be. So I think, again, a lot of the history is like overplayed or exaggerated or made out to be something it's really not, because they would just get bailed out immediately, like Alva Vanderbilt Belmont. So she married into a Vanderbilt family and then the Belmont family, two very wealthy banking elite families. And she funded for them to get bailed out all the time. So yes, they would go participate in terrorism, you know, throw Molotov cocktails into storefronts, deface property, cause scenes. They would do things like we see Antifa do now, where they would like punch cops or hit them or things like that.
Talking about Antifa?
Yeah,
BLM, and Kamala bailing them out?
Yeah, they were actually, they kind of got some of those tactics from the old Antifa group from prior. That's where they kind of got some of these tactics from. And yeah, they would get arrested, but it was a show, and then they would just get bailed out immediately by this wealthy heiress who was into suffrage and stuff.
Yeah, and meanwhile, those people nowadays are living in mansions.
Yes.
And a lot of their money is going to fund white male political candidates.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, for Susan B. Anthony to get a pardon from Trump, as though she was doing something great, and she was best friends with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who was the woman we just mentioned, who rewrote the Bible. So
what does she have to do with breast cancer? Is
That's Susan.
Oh, that's
Coleman.
Yeah. Another Susan B. Got it.
Another
Don't
Susan
get
B.
your Susan B's crossed.
Cancer's a whole another scam, though.
We did a whole
show on
No
that.
wonder she was involved with cancer, because that's such a scam too.
Yeah, no.
So I mean, when she got that pardon, I was just sitting there going,
I spent most of 2020 like this.
Yeah.
That's why they made that emoji.
I took a picture of myself doing that because, you know, there's like the emoji.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I need like the real life version of this. And it became like my real person
your
emoji.
avatar.
I kept posting it. I'm like, I have no words, just.
yeah.
All right. So since we were talking about the incrementalism, so let's talk about how feminism paved the way for where we are today, which is really, I think, just laying the groundwork for us to ultimately get to this, you know, post-human, controlled by an AI system that the elites or the powers that be, whatever we want to title them, that they program and they run, and they think they're going to be, you know, merging with machine. They essentially will live forever.
Male-female hybrids you were talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't think that could happen without the feminist movement, and then of course the LGBTQ movement, and then the transgender we're seeing today, and then ultimately to this transhuman. And I always bring this up, that I think there's this mimetic thing they're doing with trans. They rarely say transgender or transhuman. They say trans.
Yes, they shortened it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know who wants to start with that, but jump right in.
I mean, it sounds like a lovely topic. All of it.
I'm just going to say, is what they're offering so much better than what we have? It's like I call myself like a Jesus-free tree hugger, because I love the earth. In that sense, I do think that we should take care of the earth. I eat organic, you know, do grounding, sunshine, all these things, you know, like, you know, very controversial to get sun these days.
The sun will kill you.
But it's like,
Radical.
What are you talking about?
have naturally is so amazing. And these people are so miserable because they're spiritually oppressed.
Yeah.
So all they can think about is oppression, because they are oppressed, straight up. But it's a spirit thing. It's not a reality thing. And so what they're trying to offer us is it's a lower option than what we have. It's a worse option. And this is why it's a spirit, because the spirit hates humanity.
Yes.
So it's like they hate men, they hate women. This is how they're destroying us. They're dividing us in 1,000 ways and saying, what kind of plus are you?
Yeah. until it gets to the point where we're all one, right?
Yeah, because they're going
Exactly.
That's what they
Yeah,
think.
that
Like
is,
their underlying like belief is that in order for humanity to transcend the human condition, which is another thing that these early Bolshevik feminists were really into. They said we're going to conquer the social conflict part, and then after that the battle becomes to conquer nature, so that we don't have sickness or death, so we don't have to bear children in pain anymore. We can transcend the human condition and become gods ourselves. But in order to do that, man has to dissolve into woman, the races must dissolve into each other, the cultures need to dissolve into each other. This is another reason why I think they're
One
pushing,
world government.
Yes,
all
one world.
nations.
Yes, that's a
world
big push
Yep.
for it. And I think this is part of the reason that you see a lot of psychedelic use being pushed now, because
I talk about this
psychedelics,
all the time.
they dissolve your boundaries
Yes.
And your identity.
and your
Yes.
identity, and they eliminate. It's about dissolving your ego, right?
Yes.
So it's a very good way to get everybody to buy into like we're all one, man, and it's just gonna dissolve into nothing and like return to the one source of stuff. And but they think that this is the way that you transcend dying and having pain and suffering.
Is by mutilating children.
Yes, exactly.
Children's body parts off.
Yeah.
But it's for the greater good, so it's okay.
You mentioned Baphomet, and who's androgynous, and on one arm it says dissolve and the other says coagulate. So this is an alchemical process of people who know about these things that you have no idea about, that are controlling you. That, like you said, you just like dissolve everything and then you build it back up. The magus, the magician, will build it in something that is in his own image or what he wants to see.
Yep.
That's why they go after the human origin story. There will be no man, no woman.
Yeah.
It will just be the state.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why in the West,
Hegel talked about that,
yeah, in the West you had a feminism that aimed to turn women into men, and in the East, in like Russia and the Soviet bloc, you had Anatoly Lunacharsky and Maxim Gorky had a concept called God building, where we're going to get rid of Christianity, but we need a spiritual ethos to bring in the ethos we want, and
To
so
inspire people.
Yeah, and you've got to have some kind of a spiritual thing for people because human beings need that, and you can't really get people to buy into atheism. Like, atheism just ends in nihilism and then no one cares. It
Well,
kinda
they
eats
have
itself,
atheist
right?
churches.
Well,
They have atheist churches where they get together and they sing like Beatles songs. And they're like, we don't believe in God together.
I think atheism is an interesting thing because it's obviously religious just inherently.
Yeah.
But I think they use it as a stepping stone. And I think it's actually multifaceted because on the one hand, they use it as a stepping stone to bring you towards the satanic, the Luciferian, to bring you toward the biblical viewpoints. But they also use it as a boogeyman. I see so much of this where, they keep pointing the finger at the atheists, when in reality what they're trying to do is get you to avert the attention
From the Satanists.
The Satanists, the
exactly.
occultists, the Satanists, the Luciferians, the Gnostics, whatever,
So they're like, we're not religious. We don't even believe in God. That's beneath us.
Yeah.
It's all a lie. They're all worshiping Baal and Siaga.
Well, not all. I do want to just.
You know?
I do want to clarify. Not all atheists are.
Well, I'm just saying,
Right,
like,
but-
the
and this-
elite people
yeah.
are mostly
They are.
occultic,
Yes.
and they are
and
mostly
I would say that
Satanists.
most of the elites are not atheists. I think
Exactly.
they use the atheism as a boogeyman in many cases. Yeah.
I wrote down a quote because I found it fascinating when they keep attacking the woman and pregnancy.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the culture, but they had this was the tagline in an article that said Rihanna's sexy maternity looks received praise. So why are fat bodies still demonized outside of pregnancy? Because they're still pushing that, what is unhealthy for us.
Yeah.
Instead, and then I was like, last month they didn't know what a woman was.
Right.
And now pregnant women are being called fat bodies.
Yeah.
It's like just another way to shame what's natural.
That's a
and
birthing
people.
person.
Yeah, it's a birthing person or a chest feeder.
Yeah.
Or chest feeder.
my
But it's like,
gosh.
being full of a baby or seed oils and high fructose corn syrup are vastly different.
Vastly different
You know?
things.
It's just amazing what they do.
Well, that's another
What the
thing
new thing is.
Another thing that really irritates me about the new brand of like woman-hating, anti-natalist feminism is this whole like pregnancy destroys your body thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like you'll just be
Yes.
gross after you have
Yeah.
kids. You don't want to be gross and unattractive, do you? You know, that kind of thing. And I have daughters who are in their early 20s, and all of their friends are like, well, I don't have a baby. I'll get stretch marks and I'll be gross. And it's like, so it's this weird thing of like fat acceptance, but also don't have a baby because then you'll be gross. It's just, it's all very bizarre, and it's so many inherent contradictions.
Yes.
Yes.
But
It's all accusation. It's all manipulation. It's to make you confused, destroy the natural order of things. And the natural order is the best order. So you can't get a better order than that. New World Order is not it.
You'll notice they don't push fat acceptance on men.
No, they don't.
On the cover of Fitness magazine, you don't see big beer guts with hairy
true.
belly buttons and stuff.
Right.
Like,
Unless it's a pregnant guy, then you know.
Then they have a Calvin Klein like ad. But Jamie's right. It's like you see how the lingerie ads now, even Victoria's Secrets, they're pushing. You know, I don't even know. Do they call it fat acceptance? I don't know what they call it.
But you can't see a size
Healthy
8.
at every
You
size.
can
But
see
then when
a
you see-
bone-thin girl or an overweight girl.
There's no in between.
There's no
Right.
healthy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
But then
They're-
when you
they
see
don't
the
want to
when
promote
you see the
health.
men's
Yeah.
underwear ads, they're completely fit.
Oh, yeah.
They have a six-pack.
So Jamie's right. It's like,
Do they really like you?
Not double
The
standard,
answer is
though.
no.
but even when we're, even if you're in Target or something, they have the new mannequins.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
Big
it's
girl
not just
mannequins.
Target anymore. I mean, it's
not?
all over the. No, it's all over
It's
the
everywhere.
place. Yeah, it's everywhere.
But they don't have pregnant mannequins.
No.
You mean
always.
Unless that's not
Pregnant mannequins.
right? Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure they're coming. Don't you worry. We'll have those pretty soon, I'm sure. So where do we think this is going, and what do we think can be done? Do we think anything can be done to preserve the natural order of things, to promote women for real, like actual femininity? And as a result, I think that will also help men. It will help relationships and families. So, you know, this isn't just like, what can we do for women? I think ultimately it elevates everyone. So I think there's lots to be invested in how we can improve the culture and dispel some of these lies, and to generate a movement of people who are, kind of fighting back against some of these narratives.
Well, something that pops into my mind is be thankful for the good things that you
Gratitude.
have. Like, be thankful that you're a man. Be thankful that you're a woman.
Gratitude.
You don't need to go outside of those things.
Gratitude has the power to change you neurologically.
Yeah.
Like it actually rewires the brain for the better. It's really, really fascinating. They've done studies with people doing like a gratitude journal, and it can cure things like depression, anxiety, and actually create new neural pathways in the brain.
Maybe that's why the Bible says rejoice hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, if you think you're oppressed, maybe you aren't. Maybe you just need to be thankful because the world is telling you how bad you have it, and maybe that's a big lie. Because if you have food, electricity, indoor plumbing, you can watch the television, you have a phone, you're not probably doing that bad as far as the whole human race and the history of the human race is concerned. And we need to be thankful, and we need to magnify the good things in the world. We need to magnify clean air, clean water, trees, natural food, men, women, children, and healthy societies. If you focus on all the most terrible things in society all the time, we have creative power with our thoughts, our words, our actions. You're going to be creating more of the terrible things if that's all you think or talk about all the time. So you need to talk about good things and be thankful. That's how we combat this, in my humble opinion.
I concur.
there's a sci-fi movie that touches on all the things that we were talking about, and it was actually George Lucas's first film school project called THX 1138, and it's the day in the life of man in the not too distant future. And he basically builds robots that enslave him, and they keep all the humans, you know, compartmentalized. So he goes to his machine job all day. He comes home, he sits in his recliner, he watches some porn, and a big machine comes down and milks him.
Whoa.
And then he goes to his robot confessional that has just like a screen of Jesus, and he gives his confession to Jesus, and it, you know, in a robot voice, you are forgiven. So it's like they're trying to make everything that you have synthetic, and it's just this like hellscape that he lives in where nothing is real.
Whoa.
And they're just trying to hit Christianity too, and Catholics in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the Bible already says we live in a world that we see dimly.
Yes.
We see dimly because the spiritual world is real.
Yeah.
And we don't all see that.
Yep.
And so we already see dimly. We don't need to live in a virtual world where we don't even see anything
Yeah,
real.
where it'll erase that.
Yeah.
You won't even have a conception of that anymore.
Yeah.
I wanted to address something you had said earlier about, you know, people saying, well, I'm not religious, so I don't, you know, subscribe to any of this. And I think that, you know, everybody has the beliefs they have. That's part of free will, as I respect everybody's right to believe what they believe. But I think that even if you don't believe, you have to acknowledge there are people who do, and they really, really, they live and execute as if this spiritual battle exists. And that happens on both sides. But the people who worship the dark they believe they're summoning these demons. They believe that they have the ability to cast magical spells. And that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether you believe or not, I think that it should not be ignored.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you-
say that
you
all
can
the
see
time
that
in the
at
book
CERN.
too. Even if you think it's silly,
Right.
it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter because they don't think it's
Exactly.
silly.
They're doing a demonic seance type thing when they opened up CERN. And they're doing these things. And those people have particle colliders and things I don't even know about. And they have these things that could like destroy the world. So we should be concerned about
Well,
that.
I love. Oh, sorry.
Who sits out in the front yard of CERN?
Shiva.
Shiva. Yeah.
I love when they try to say though that, you know, they always retract and they say, you know, that, oh, that was just like a silly dance and we didn't mean anything by that.
Yeah.
Like, well, why are you doing
Why
these
would-
like
yeah.
yeah. I mean, they do this with
Let's
all
do
of
like Little Orphan Annie.
Yeah.
Let's do like, you know, South Pacific or
No,
something.
they never do that. No.
They
It's
don't.
always going to be something super esoteric and satanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
when you were
cool.
saying how, like, what can we do
Yeah.
about this? I think.
I like to give people some hope.
Yes, I do too, because
Yeah.
this can be massively blackpilling
Yeah,
for people.
totally.
And I end my book by saying that I think Simone de Beauvoir was right, even though she was a horrible, awful individual. She said in an interview with Betty Friedan that we cannot give women the choice to stay home and raise their children and be with their families, because if such a choice exists, too many women will choose that one. And I believe her.
Yes.
I believe her that if we tell women it's great to be a mom, it's wonderful to be a lady, to be a wife, to be a feminine woman, that's cool. If we make that cool again, they will choose that.
Yep.
Right.
Our
And that-
GDP is going to plummet.
Well, and I mean, women can work. There's many times throughout your life, now my children are getting older and I can do some things like this, right? There's phases to my life. When I was young and didn't have kids, I worked more. But when they were born, they became the priority.
Right.
And hopefully as I get older, I'll have lots of grandkids. I'll be able to volunteer at my church more. I'll be able to help in my community more. I'll have more time for lots of things. But I just think that telling women you're a total loser unless you're a CEO or an OnlyFans girl with a certain amount of subscribers is horrible. And I mean, girls, when they're growing up, they want to be successful. We tell them they should be successful. And if you ask little girls, what do you want to be when you grow up? If they were to say a mother, that wouldn't be an acceptable answer anymore.
Right.
So I think we really can turn that around. And I think if men stopped rewarding, like promiscuity and pornography and things with attention,
Right.
that would help a lot. That would turn things around a lot. And we can tell young ladies it's really cool to be a woman and be a mom and be a wife and be these kinds of women. Be like Mary. Be like the Theotokos. That's cool. That's great.
What-
She's the queen of heaven. She's the chief of all the saints, and she's a woman.
Yeah, there isn't a more important job. Like, you can't name one. No one can.
No. Yeah, your legacy at your company, where you're CEO or you're a partner lawyer or whatever, they're not going to care when you die.
No.
But when you have children, you leave a legacy. So, and maybe we could get the birth rate up above like 1.34 if we did that.
That would be good. But you bring up a point about success and how that's so hardwired. And I mean, I think as humans, people want to feel a sense of contribution, a sense of, and really that's what it's about. It's about a sense of purpose and contribution.
Yes.
And that's been conflated with material success.
Yes, exactly.
And instead of, defining for yourself what is success. And success really should be tied to purpose and to meaning, something more
Totally
substantial.
agree. Yeah.
Well, okay, now that we live in the modern world, what is the next step if we start succeeding at this? Is it going to look like the 50s again? Is it going to look like the pioneer days again? Like, what is it actually going to look like? Are women going to drop out of the workforce? Because right now, men and women are dropping out of the workforce.
Yeah,
and they're
that's
going
true.
on the government dole. So,
Well, I think they want UBI, so all that stuff's probably gonna. If they succeed in that, it won't matter too much if you're a career woman, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what sectors of the economy they're gonna have, but I get accused of that all the time. You just want it to be like the 50s again, and I don't. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Right.
It's not about going back to something. It's about rejecting this. What Jamie was talking about. It's about rejecting this idea that we're going to just destroy everything and then create some new weird one world, one religion, all are one, everybody's just a mishmash glob of stuff.
dystopian nightmare.
Yeah.
Right.
Borg.
Is what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And it becomes more about families and communities again. I don't think we have to go back in time to have family connections and community connections and bonding. They don't want you to bond. They don't want you to pair bond with your spouse. They don't want you to bond with your children. They don't want you to bond with your friends, your neighbors. And I think that's what needs to come back, not some like 1950s housewife thing or some, it's not really about going back in time.
Well, I think also I always say that, I think their goal is this like post-human type world. And I think the best antidote to that is to be more radically human.
Yeah. Exactly.
That should be the next shirt.
Yeah.
Radically
Radical
human.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, so we do have shirts, so you can support the show. We have, this is one of them. It's a national treasure on this side. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And on the other side, it says The Right Voices. We have a bunch, though. If you go to therightvoices.store, you can go pick out ones that you like.
We also have one that says free radical.
Yeah.
And radical means rooted.
Yes.
So
deeply
it's
rooted.
grounded, rooted, you know who you are. And by the way, go stand on the earth barefoot. You'll feel a lot more human than if you don't.
Yeah. I don't have a shirt. I've never even, this is the first time I've seen them. So thank you.
You have a shirt now.
Where can I get them? No, I don't.
The Right Voices.
Yes.
.store.
Okay.
Yes, the Right Voices
Thank you.
store. You're welcome. Yes. So we have a few minutes left. I want to bring up a couple of things and give everybody a chance to plug because everybody's doing really great things on their own, and I want to have the opportunity for them to plug their stuff. But I also want to point out I'm a total Luddite and really trying to work all of this technology thing, and I'm not so great at it. But I'm learning, and I will be getting better. So one thing we have is, and it's in the, I think it's in the beginning of the chat, is a dono chat.
Link.
So
Yep.
if anybody wants to ask questions, they can go to it's a dono dot, so DONO dot chat / dono, DONO / Courtenay. And I spell my name strange, it's Courtenay. Like
I think
Courtenay.
we put it in the description, perhaps, or it's pinned to the top of the
it's
chat.
pinned in the chat,
Yeah.
and I'd have to go figure that out. So I will kind of scroll through and see. Is all left awesome comments. Really appreciate it. So yes, it's
Thank
in
you
the,
for watching, everybody. And
So
this
it's
is our
in-
first major broadcast. So
Yes,
you're at the
right.
beginning.
You are. So we've done a couple of episodes, and I am going to upload them. We're going to try and do this more often, more regularly. But this is the first I wanted to do, the first one that we're airing, and I wanted to do it live so you can kind of join in with us and feel like you're a part of the show as well. So it is in the chat, and it's pinned in the chat.
Cool.
So
if you guys want to send a question or a comment through Courtney's Dono Chat and support the show, that's a great way to do it. Just click on the Dono Chat link. It's super simple, super easy, and that way she doesn't have to give YouTube 30% either.
Yes, because as much as it's great to be on here, we're on YouTube right now, we're on Rockfin Live, we're on Rumble Live, but this is my second YouTube channel, so I want to have other kinds of options just in case so we can keep things going. And with that said, while we're waiting, if anybody does want to leave any questions, comments, I'm going to give these beautiful ladies an opportunity to tell you who they are, what they're doing, and plug their stuff. Want to start with you, Jamie?
Okay. On my Facebook profile, it says my job description is Defense Against the Dark Arts Professor. So if you,
I love that.
I love it too.
if you want to learn more about the topics that we've been talking about, especially magic, black magic, esoteric, occult, conspiracy theories, and other issues, and women's issues, my show is called Out of This World. It's on YouTube, and Rachel is a regular guest, and we hit it out of the park all the time.
Yes, we do. We do. So my name is Rachel Wilson. You can find my book, Occult Feminism, The Secret History of Women's Liberation, on Amazon. And then you can see me on Out of This World with Jamie quite often. Courtney and I have a show we do together as well called Crypto History Uncrypted. And I also have a YouTube channel that's just Rachel Wilson. You can find my debates on The Crucible, and that's pretty much it for me. I also have a Substack, rwilson.substack.com, where I put some of my articles, and sometimes we'll stream about things, and then I'll create an article with citations and stuff if you guys want further digging or sources or stuff like that.
Very cool. I'm Courtenay Turner. I'm the host of The Right Voices, the Courtenay Turner podcast. You can find me at CourtenayTurner.com, and again, I spell my name like Courtenay. So it's Courtenay, Turner, Turner. I have the show with Rachel, Uncrypted History. Cryptid History Uncrypted.
Yeah.
And we are doing another episode next week.
Yep.
So right now we're diving into the origins of social science, psychology, psychiatry, and revealing some of the truths around that. I also have Pirate Stream Media, which is, we do a show called The Dialectical Dissidents, and that is with Scott Armstrong from Rebunk News and Ryan Christian from T-Lab. And then I also have a show called WIM, What is Movement? And we explore ways that movement helps people to heal emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And that is about to be uploaded on the Way Forward platform. And then I also have an event coming up. I'm super, super excited about this. It is called Rebels for Cause, and that's going to be June 3rd and 4th in Nashville. And you can go to rebelsforcause.com and find out more about that event. That's June 3rd and 4th. And CAUSE stands for Creative Artists Uniting for the Sovereignty of Everyone. And it is put on by Freedom Unity Network, LLC. So we want this to be fun. That's why I came up with that acronym. And really to be kind of the counterculture, but only like a genuine counterculture, not, an intelligence agency infiltrated
posting side.
Exactly. But we have so many really talented artists and musicians, physical artists and like studio artists and comedians and people who are standing for sovereignty and for free will and are pro-humanity. So we'll have lots of speakers and artists and showcase them, and it'll be really fun. So you should go check that out.
Nice. And my name is Erin Jo Harris, and you can find me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active, Erin J.O. Harris on Instagram. And my purpose, my mission in life is something I call heaven permaculture, which is creating heavenly ecosystems through diverse art forms. And that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. And in addition to that, I am writing a book this year called Towers of Silver, which is a sacred guide to womanhood. It's about how God designed us, very valuable in his eyes, and about boundaries. Boundaries equals worth, if you didn't know that. So it's about boundaries, it's about worth, it's about being a woman, and it's about being on a path that will actually lead you to wholeness and to contentment and to being who you really are and how you were designed. So I'm really excited about that. We'll also be at the Rebels for Cause event, hopefully doing some music and doing a panel together. So you can see
we're all
there.
going to do a panel. Yes.
Yes,
I am?
Yes.
I'm just finding this out. I don't know.
I believe we talked about it the other night. It was a few weeks ago, but that's okay.
Yes. And if you want to listen
surprise!
if you want to listen to my music, you can go to erinjoharris.com. Thank you.
Nice. Do we have any questions?
Well, first here.
I don't have anything. I am. What am I doing now? I'm an executive assistant to a toddler. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
She's a very talented toddler.
Excellent.
Yes,
Very talented.
she's extremely busy. I'm starting to get a little bit into the working field again because my priority was a child. So I do some media training, mostly on Zoom, but occasionally I will fly somewhere if it's under 48 hours. So I'm doing that now. Getting back out in the world, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to be on panel with us. So.
And I'm going to be on this panel that I don't know about.